I'm so glad I'm almost finished my final assignment. Now, all I've got to do is... Wait, what? No. No. No! College is a very humbling experience. You're tired, overworked, stressed, and sad. But the worst part is that you signed up and paid for it. I started college right out of high school, so it's been a crazy mix of learning new things while figuring out how to be an adult, which has been an interesting but very chaotic experience. My first wake-up call was during my 3rd week of school. I handed in an assignment late, and my teacher just didn't mark it. Like, baby me was straight up gagged and hadn't even considered that as a possibility. Which, yes, that was 100% my fault, but at my old school, due dates were a suggestion. As long as you submitted your work by marks cutoff, you were good. So yeah, definitely a learning experience, but very tame when compared to my other mishaps. Which brings us to the story I like to call Podcast Crash. One of my assignments was to create 4 10-minute food podcasts, where I'd interview restaurant owners and create engaging, detailed stories. It wasn't too hard on its own, but was a lot when paired with work and my other schoolwork. So, I only had time to record and finish the podcasts in one day. I got to school at 2 and got to work. It was draining, but at 1 a.m. I was done and adding some finishing touches. I was tired, but extremely happy to finish the project that I'd been working on for 10 hours. Until an error message popped up on my screen. My mind was racing, and I was frantically clicking my mouse. My heart was pounding. My mind was frantic. I was beyond helpless, feeling extreme desperation. I held my breath until finally the computer shut down, erasing all of my work in the process. I just sat there, blankly staring at the screen for 20 minutes. I physically could not comprehend what had just happened. It felt so unfair that you could do everything right and still fail, that something out of your control can just swoop in and take everything from you. I felt broken and defeated. And I won't lie, I started crying. I sobbed for a good 10 minutes before solemnly gathering my things and going home. I think the worst part was that I was so burned out and didn't even have time to redo that assignment. I was so busy with my other classes and work that I didn't even have the time to dwell on it, which sucked because it was actually a really important assignment. But I just had to take the L and learn from my mistake. And I'll tell you, I've never made that mistake again. But there is another mistake that I somehow never seem to learn from. I am a chronic night owl and will often stay up late or not sleep at all. It started out as me staying up late because I didn't have enough time to unwind, but soon devolved into me staying up all night so I could stay on top of my schoolwork. At first, I was fine and could easily balance school, work, and hanging out with friends. But as my schoolwork got progressively more demanding, things in my personal life started to slip. I stopped seeing my friends outside of school and started to stay up late to finish assignments. It got to the point where I'd have to forego sleep for 1 night a week just to keep my head above water. It's a slippery slope that's hard to get out of. And here's why. As soon as you start losing sleep, your brain starts to get all funky. It gets harder to think, and simple tasks will often take you a longer time to complete, which meant that my work kept piling on, and I had to keep skipping sleep to keep up. But by skipping sleep, I was in turn taking longer to complete the work I already had, and was forced to skip more sleep to finish it. But also, please note that I am not a medical professional and that I'm just speaking from my own personal experience. Anyways, it was a very vicious cycle that I ended up being trapped in for a long time. And I'm still suffering from the consequences of it to this day. Like, it takes me forever to fall asleep at a reasonable time. I'll be in bed by 11 p.m. and I won't be able to fall asleep until 1 a.m. Which is pretty womp womp, but ultimately it is what it is. Anyways, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day and watching my video. I really appreciate your support, and I'd love to hear some of your humbling school experiences in the comments. Once again, I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye for now.